to you all. Let me continue launching, of course, this Facebook and then also Instagram. I am so glad you all are here. It's been a whole week since I last spoke with you, and I am elated that you all have decided to join me on today. Listen, this is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about emotions. And the reason I want to talk about emotions is because I know that there will be a number of teens transitioning out of the home, of course, in August, which is next month. And when transition day arrives, then emotions have a tendency to be all over the place. And so I want to just talk about that just a bit, because I want to help you to prepare, if you will, for that day. Was I prepared? I'm unable to even admit that I was. I know that I and my hubby had poured so much into our oldest daughter, and she was prepared, no doubt, hands down, she was prepared. However, admitting that we were prepared, we were just unable to do that. So that's what I want to do on today, is I just want to take some time to just talk about some things that we could have done. So when that transition day arrived, and when we dropped her off on Virginia Tech's campus, then of course we would have been prepared in addition to her being prepared. So first and foremost, I just want to encourage you to feel your emotions and manage them as well. I think that it's also good to name your emotions. If you're sad, if you're lonely, if you feel empty, if you feel angry, if you feel confused, if you feel anxious, all of that, we want to make sure that you're able to name it. Yes, feel them, yet be able to name them as well, because I'm convinced that if you can name it, you can tame it. We want to make sure that, of course, and it's okay to grieve, because guess what? This is a time of grieving. I mean, this is a new chapter in your life and your teen's life. And keep in mind, you've been caring for your teen for those 17, 18, or 19 years. And so all of a sudden, I mean, there's this distance that's being created between the both of you. So feel your emotions, be able to name your emotions, so that your emotions then can be tamed. But of course, you'll need to know what those emotions are prior to you even trying to identify, how can I go about, making sure that I'm okay, and that this emotion doesn't continue for months and years, and is there a time when, I may need additional support regarding what I'm feeling. So, and what I did also is I spent some time alone with myself and my Heavenly Father, because I knew that I needed to, of course, understand just a little bit about what this looked like. And y'all will see me looking at, of course, at Instagram and then also Facebook as well. But I needed to be able to understand a little bit more about who God was calling me to be. What was next in this next chapter of my life? Where was I going to be directed, and what would be my focus, and what additional skills was I going to bring to the table for myself? Or, was I going to tap into some additional talents, and was I going to cultivate some other skills or talents or gifts as I move into this second half of my life? Being 54, listen, I have less rope on this half than I did on the last half, and so it's just important for me to use all of my time productively, and that's what I plan on doing, like from here on out. And I'm just gonna rest when God calls me home. But by all intents and purposes, I would encourage you to tap into those emotions. And then, a lot of times when when you're discerning, what's next for me, then, ideas or thoughts, or they'll come to mind. You'll get a quickening in your spirit regarding, okay, well, this is what's next. And so what you want to do is you'll want to remain conscious about that. What are these next steps, and what should I be doing now that my teens have transitioned out of the home? Now 2 of mine are gone. I still have 1 left. And so, but by all intents and purposes, I've already begun to jump both feet into my calling. And that's what I'm doing right here, right now. I am, if you will, pouring into mothers. And so this is exactly what I'm called to do. And I plan on doing this, into my last breath. And so this first tip, talking about emotions, before I go on to the second tip, and I'll probably give about 5 tips today. In addition to this, before I head to the second tip, I want us to begin to really understand ourselves from an emotional intelligence perspective. Because now that your teens are out of the home, then of course you'll want to understand and you'll want to realize your level of, and I'm talking specifically about the constructs of emotional intelligence. You'll want to understand, where am I? Do I have a high level of self-awareness? Do I know what's going on within myself? Am I clear about how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking and why? Also, social awareness. When I'm interacting with other people, am I able to sense the meaningful dialogue that I'm having between myself and the other person? And I'm still talking about these emotions, if you will. Also, self-management. Am I able to manage myself, or am I, flying off the spoon the moment, I feel a little bit of an irritation from something or someone? Again, I'm talking about emotions and us going into this next phase after our teens have transitioned out of the home, and then we're scooting back into the center or close to the center of our lives. Some of us, like me, I'm unable to even remember really what it was like to not have kids, because I've raised these kids all these years. It's like, I must make sure that I'm finding myself. So, self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and then also relationship management, and making sure, and I'll talk a little bit about that, making sure that I'm building those relationships up between myself and other people. Let's be honest, before we started having children, we had time on our hands, more than not, and then we started, birthing these children, and then we start raising them, and then we lost time for ourselves and also our interactions with other people. So as your teen is transitioning out of the home, and some of you may have 2 or 3 or 4 children, and some of you may just have 1. When it gets close to that, those teens begin to transition out, it's good to go back to building those relationships and feeling good about just the way you've raised your children. Because guess what? Let's be honest, we all did the best we could with what we had at the time we were given. So, it's good to encourage ourselves. I think about scripture in 1 Samuel 30, verse 6. I think about when King David went to Ziklag. And then the Amalekites, they had came in and they had raided the town and took the women and took the animals and and just raided it, put it on fire, all of that. And King David started weeping. And guess what? He could, because he was in distress. And he encouraged himself. And I would encourage, inspire, motivate us to do the same. Listen, let's encourage ourselves whenever we need that encouragement. Okay, so that's number 1, being able to identify and manage those emotions. That's tip number 1. Let's make sure we're doing that, mothers. Also, let's reconnect with, of course, our partner, spouses, or whomever you're claiming your partner to be. And then also, guess what? Those friendships, whether it's high school friendships, it could be college friendships or sorority sisters, it could be maybe work colleagues. Let's reconnect with them. I know we had little time as we were raising our children, but guess what? let's make sure that, we're building up those friendships and building up those relationships. And guess what? Some of those relationships, depending on what the other person may need or what you may need, you can eventually begin to build your parent posse. So once your last teen is out of the home, guess what? You already have a set of women or a set of friends or a set of other parents to interact with. It's already been established. And so let's build, tip number 2, let's reconnect with those old friends and old, not old, some of, those in the past, those individuals in the past whom we've lost contact with. And guess what? That same enthusiasm that we used to, of course, raise our teens, over the last hours or months or years or decade or what have you, let's utilize that same enthusiasm to pour into our friendship. So let's reconnect with those individuals, of course. And then, what I have realized is when we reconnect with individuals and we're pouring into those friendships, we're called to be conduits anyway. And let's continue to be givers and love one another and all of those different types of things when we reconnect. And some of you all have been connected all along and have been spending just as much time as you did when you had children. That's been a cinch for you. For some of us, it has not. And I've had to go back and reconnect and make some phone calls and hang out. And even tomorrow morning, of course, Saturday morning, I'm having breakfast with a friend that I knew, of course, before I even had my 24-year-old daughter. So her and we have sparingly throughout this time, but we're connecting for breakfast at a delicious breakfast spot, of course, on Saturday. So reconnect. Then listen, tip number 3. Tip number 3 is, when it's time for your teen to transition out of the home, and then they're off, let's resist the urge or resist the desire to hover. Are we able to do that? Just are we able to take maybe a couple of steps back and really embrace the idea of letting go? Or sometimes I say releasing with respect, because I know that in addition to yourself, your teen is practicing and working through, of course, knowing how to manage new opportunities and new challenges. And I thank you all. I see additional people joining. And of course, we're talking about how to go about managing our emotions so that as it leads up to the point in time when our teens are transitioning out of the home, whether they're going off to the college campus, the military base, or simply residential independence, of course, there's that pull that takes place. And there's this emptiness that parents, mothers tend to sense. And so just learning how to embrace that and then be productive throughout it is key. And then being able to prepare for it too is ideal. So, of course, number 1, being able to identify and assess and, of course, manage those emotions. Tip number 1. Of course, and then tip number 2, we want to make sure that we're connecting with, our past friends. And we want to make sure that we are, of course, whether it's, our colleagues from work or college friends, etc. And then number 3, I'm talking about us resisting hovering so that then when they transition out of the home, then of course they're able to embrace these new challenges and these new opportunities. And then, of course, guess what happens? They're able to make their own decisions. And when we make our own decisions, that builds our self-confidence and that builds our self-image. Then also when we just resist from hovering, then guess what? We're allowing them the privacy that they desire and the privacy that they need. They're able to begin able to make snap judgment decisions. They're able to, of course, solve their own problems. There's a step-by-step methodical process that I've shared in our private Facebook group, Emerging Mothers, that talks about, how teens are able to go about solving problems on their own. And then also they're able to make their own friends. They're able to make new friends. And they're able to, of course, as they're making new friends, it's because they will have ventured out and they will have, of course, joined organizations and they have joined clubs and all types of things such as that while they're on the college campus. Will it be uncomfortable at first? It probably will be, but by all intents and purposes, guess what? We as adults, we've sensed a little discomfort as well when we're in a new setting. But then what we do is we begin to, and you know what? You all are just so, I appreciate you all. It showed that my laptop was on a low battery. And so what do? You just make adjustments so that you can just go ahead and plug up your laptop and continue talking, which is what I just did. So thank you for just enduring that with me. And so what I did is I tried to allow space, and I tried, when my daughters were on the college campus, what I did is I, of course, made sure that, I allowed them to call me a lot of the time so I could make sure that I wasn't hovering. And what I did is, although I wanted to pick up the phone and just call them all the time, minute by minute, day after day, I, would jingle my mother in St. Louis, and she would just get a whole earful, and she just kept taking my phone calls, and then she'd call me, and so it was just, we're close anyway. And so find that person, two people or one person or what have you, who you can confide in, of course, when you're missing your teen. And then of course my hubby, of course we talked all the time, just so I can make sure that, of course, I just wasn't just, hovering, doing all the hovering that I really wanted to do. And I'm just keeping it 100. Oh, guess what? The next point is this, and I'm still in the process of doing this. Oh my goodness. Step number 4 is re-envision and reinvent yourself. Oh my goodness. I am having so much fun doing this. So many of you all know that I have 3 daughters. My oldest daughter, she went off to Virginia Tech and graduated. She went off in 2016, graduated, and now she's a systems engineer in Colorado. My second daughter, of course, she graduated last year as well. I mean, you all probably can imagine the emotional roller coaster last year when all of these amazing happenings were taking place. And then my second daughter went off in 2018, of course, and then she's, awaiting response back and looking to pursue medical school. And then I have a 14-year-old. And so it's so interesting because I had yet to prepare myself when they went off, and I found myself on my prayer closet floor wailing, thinking, what in the world have we just done? When I picked myself back up and went to church the next morning and began asking other mothers, how did you handle this? Oh my goodness. Of course, other mothers who were more seasoned than myself, thinking that they were going to say, oh, it was no big deal. Oh, it was okay. And they were still saying, oh my goodness, I just still get emotional from time to time because they've gone off. And even when they come back home with their families, just seeing them go, I just, wish they would stay longer and that we would be around each other more. I pulled aside. Yes, there's a woman at my church, her name is Ann Brothers, and then another woman, her name is Lynn Halford, and they were sharing these things with me, and so it made me feel more comfortable. And so when I talk about re-envisioning and reinventing myself, that's what I started doing, as I mentioned earlier, pouring into you all and really applying strategy to my stress, my struggle, and my strain. And so that my hope and my goal and my focus is to disallow other parents from feeling this same emptiness and feeling and being unprepared when this time approaches. And so, of course, I've put together a 6-month program and then a 12-month program to make sure that you know what is needed to be known, of course, before those teens transition out of the home. So yeah, that's what I did. I did a deep dive into research and identified, all types of goodness that would totally help mothers to be better prepared for, of course, when their teens transition out. But guess what? That's me. Some of you all, you may be in the process of wanting to re-envision and reinvent yourself. Guess what? You might want to go off and maybe do some scuba diving or skydiving or something such as that. Or you may want to do something in the arts. You may want to do some, water painting or drawing or maybe woodwork. You may want to, pour yourself into maybe pottery classes or something along those lines. But please re-envision and and reinvent yourself. I'm unable to stress that enough, I tell you. And if you're uncertain, what are the next steps for me? Because a number of parents, I've heard it time and time again, they ask themselves questions like, who am I now? Because they're unable to remember what that was like, of course, themselves before they had their teen. So when you're asking yourself, who am I now? Listen, some may just go to the master and ask, okay, so Lord, what do you want? What is your calling for me? What do you want me to do next? I would encourage you. And that's what I did. Went to the Lord in prayer. Jeremiah 33 verse 3 in the Old Testament says, call out to me and I will answer you and I will tell you those, unsearchable things you do not know. That's what the NIV says. If I were to look at the English Standard Version of the Bible, it says those hidden things, or the Amplified says those confined things. So these are things that we can't just think up on our own. So I found myself, praying about it. And so when this dropped so heavy in my spirit, I said, oh, that's it. And I've loved doing it ever since. And so, it may help to just call out to him and he'll reveal it. And, it's something that, and then when he drops it in your spirit, then you'll say, that's it. That's a desire of mine. So I'm just hopeful, and I just know he will for you as well. So, or it could simply be you may already know that you want to take up a new sport when you're re-envisioning yourself, or maybe there is a new exercise program that you want to do a deep dive into, and so to better your body. It could be just whatever it is. I would encourage you. That way you'll be able to answer the question, who am I now? Who am I now? What am I going to be? Who am I going to be after these teens have transitioned out of the home? I know what I'm going to do is I am going to make the best of each and every day, minute by minute of my life between now, again, until the very, very end. So listen, tip number 5. I just love tossing these tips and dropping these gems. And guess what? Let me tell y'all this, and then I will tell you number 5, and then we will conclude and we'll wrap it right up. Listen, last weekend I got on TikTok. So I am on TikTok. And I am sharing some gems there as well. So if you'd like to follow me on TikTok, or if you'd like to be a part of our private Facebook group, search us up on Facebook. Emerging Mothers is the name of our group. Also on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. So I so appreciate you all. And then, of course, I'm talking to mothers who are already in our Facebook group as well. So I'm super excited. All of them are here. Number 5 is be patient. I'm unable to stress this enough. Please be patient with yourself. You will want to be patient with yourself, because guess what? These new events in your journey, mothers, you want them to be filled with joy. You want them to be filled with excitement. And you're probably unable to see it now, but the time will come where you will be so astonished at all of what your teen is able to accomplish as they develop into themselves. My hubby and I, we have been ecstatic watching the hand of God just move and shake and just maneuver and lead and guide our daughters along their path. Listen, and it has helped to take, are we concerned about anything? Like, we're really not, because he has just done it. And so, I would encourage you all to just allow him to just lead, guide, and direct as well. That's what we did, and we are so grateful for it. So, and then also, this is like a whole new life for your teen and yourself. So just, remain confident in yourself as a parent, please, and just begin to prepare yourself. And if you need some ideas, there are plenty of them on the different social medias that I've just mentioned. I'm all about meeting, of course, on a weekly basis to make sure that you're able to embrace these tips as you prepare for transition day. Transition day for me was, of course, me, making sure that my daughter, and we parents, we talk all along the way. And so it was just those last few words of wisdom that I wanted to share with her. And so even if you'd like to think through and write that letter, begin writing that letter to your teen, and you may not finish it today, and you may not finish it until the day before they leave, but still you will be able to just jot all of your thoughts down on paper for them to read, of course, when you've driven off, and it'll make a world of difference to them. and I'm sure to you as well. So listen, nonetheless, I appreciate you all. I will be back next week at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I will talk about a different topic, of course. And if there's something that you want to hear more about, please let me know, and I'll make sure that I speak on it next time. Keep in mind that I do have a 6-month and a 12-month program. If you're needing some additional strategies in reference to what can be done day by day so that you're prepared for your transition, hit me up on social media, and I'll make sure that I respond. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. Love you all. I'm Dr. Michelle Lloyd, Transition Success Coach with Lloyd Learning Labs, and I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye.